At Raising Financial Freedom, we're on a mission to inspire and empower financial freedom to every parent so that they can pass it along to their children. Through engaging stories, expert advice, and actionable tips, our podcast is transforming lives and helping listeners take control of their financial futures. Your support helps us produce high-quality, impactful episodes, expand our reach to underserved communities, and keep this life-changing content free for everyone. Whether it's $5, $10, or any amount, every donation fuels our mission and makes a difference. You can donate by clicking the heart-shaped link next to the social icons or the link at the bottom of the show notes. Once again, thank you for supporting Raising Financial Freedom and joining us in creating a world where financial freedom is within everyone's reach. Together, we can make a difference.
Here on Raising Financial Freedom, we stress financial literacy and finance and all things money, I would say. But there are other skills that work hand in hand with financial literacy. Our guest today, Mark Herschberg, is here to talk about what life skills are not taught in school, and also his book, The Career Toolkit, which talks about those same exact points. Mark is a seasoned university instructor and event speaker, and his book definitely brought up points, or I would say other aspects that I need to teach my child. Not to stray off the topic too much, but as a parent, you will always like to know that what you're teaching your child is getting through to them. And that's the type of moment I recently had with my daughter. She came to me recently showing me about the debit card green light. And this is something she took upon herself to go look about because she was interested. I told her to look up some more information and come back to me with it. I already knew a little bit about the card, but for her to go about it on her own was like an enlightening moment for me because it just showed me that, hey, directly and indirectly, what I'm telling her and showing her about money and financial literacy is rubbing off on her in more ways than one. I just thought I would share that with you other parents out there, that what you teach counts. So now let's get back into the show and let's get this started in
10, 9, 8. Come on, Dad. Stop playing around and play the music.
Sheesh, tough crowd.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have it all financially? Do well-off parents simply hand their children money? Or is there more to this wealth thing? Welcome to Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. We are here to talk about everything you never knew to teach your children when it comes to starting their financial future. The principles behind wealth and methods that are out there to teach your child about personal financial freedom. There is no real trick to earning other than learning. We are here to discuss, teach, and grow with you. Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast, with your host and concerned parent, Eric Yard. Let us get right into today's show.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Raising Financial Freedom. I would like to welcome Mark Herschberg.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mark, how are you doing today?
I am great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Mark. So, Mark, now the book, I read it and I loved some of the key points you had in there. Now, the book to me spoke out to like basically a Swiss Army knife of skills that are forgotten and need to be implemented when a young adult steps out into the real world. So now my question to you is, why is there so much of these skills that are lost? I'm not even lost. I would say just mainly forgotten by the school system as of maybe saying negotiating and communication, stuff like that.
Right. Even really fundamental ones like networking, which we all grow up hearing from our parents and teachers, and everyone talks about networking, but no one actually stops to teach it to us. And the reason for that is the history behind our education system. The modern education system in the U.S. really grew up about 150 years ago. It's as we transitioned from working on the farms, where we could just learn what we needed from our parents, to an industrialized society, where we need basic skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, to be able to function in factories, and then those turned into offices, and just in society in general. But for those types of jobs, it was just being functional. You didn't need to be great at networking to work in a factory. There weren't leadership skills necessary. So our school system wasn't designed for them. And then our university system, where we think students are really going to prepare for those white collar jobs, they often fail because our university system is run by professors. And they're wonderful people. I work with them all the time when I teach at MIT and elsewhere. But the professors are focused on a very narrow area. So if your son or daughter goes off to get a marketing degree, when they go to college, the marketing professors will say, if you want to get a marketing degree, we've determined you have to take this set of classes: introduction to marketing, advanced marketing, social media marketing, pick a few others, and maybe take some general requirements the school requires. If you do all that, we're going to give you a degree. But what that degree really means is you have achieved a certain level of knowledge in marketing.
Right.
That's all the degree says. You have taken these classes, this knowledge. It doesn't even say that you're good at marketing, let alone good at communicating or leading or teamwork, or that you're even a good employee. All it says is that you know this much about marketing. And that has been seen as a proxy. And that was okay about 80 some years ago when we had the mid-century corporation. But in today's world, where the nature of our work has changed, that is not sufficient. And universities have not yet caught up to that fact.
In your opinion, do you feel that young adults are prepared enough today to step out into the real world?
Prepared enough in that they can, certainly they can function, but additional preparation can have a huge impact. And let me give you a concrete example. Let's take negotiating. So consider that you have a student coming right out of school, and that student gets offered a job for $60,000. If that student knows how to negotiate, instead of accepting for $60,000, student goes back to the manager and says, here's why I'd like to get $61,000. They negotiate, and you get $1,000 more. Now, we can all imagine $1,000, that's not a huge raise. That's not some master negotiation tactic. You could probably go from 60 to 61. If that young student does nothing else in her career, if she stays in that job the next 40 years, that 5-minute negotiation just got her $40,000 over her lifetime.
Wow.
Just made $40,000 in 5 minutes. But of course, you're saying that's unrealistic. No one's going to sit in a job for 40 years. No one's going to sit at that salary for 40 years. You'll have promotions and raises and other jobs, and you're probably going to negotiate for more than $1,000. If you just learn to negotiate, not, again, to be the world's greatest negotiator, but just to be a little better than the nothing that we teach them, you can add easily 5 figures, even 6 figures to your lifetime earnings. Now, I give negotiation as an example because the math is very easy to see, but the same thing is true in our networks, with our leadership, with our communication. If we just get a little bit better, it's not that someone's going to say, you're a better leader, here's $1,000 more, but just being a little bit better opens up new opportunities, gets you faster promotions, gets you better jobs, and will have that same 5 or 6 figure impact on your life just by getting a little better. But unfortunately, the baseline is near zero. So the good news is you don't have to go very far to get better than the baseline.
Zero. Wow. And I could tell you, in a matter of fact, that negotiations is definitely not a topic in schools, not a topic in college, which I feel is a definite skill that is needed in order to advance yourself, because using negotiations is in almost every aspect you could think about in life. When for a bill, for not just only getting a job, but by also just talking to people and doing contracts and other things.
Yeah, you are spot on. Not only do it when we're negotiating a job or perhaps selling to a customer or dealing with a vendor, but in fact, the people we often spend the most time negotiating with are our coworkers. And we're trying to figure out how to divide up the project and who's going to have the boring piece or the hard piece, and how we can work together and how your team can work with my team. So we negotiate all the time. The example I gave was just about salary, but you are absolutely right that we get even more benefit by being a better coworker, a better employee, a better leader, by learning to negotiate with our own team members.
Definitely. How was your time stepping out into the real world? How was that transition? What skills did you have and did not have that you wish you could have implemented?
It was a tough one for me. Now, I graduated from MIT with 3 degrees, and it was the dot-com era. So fortunately, I was able to pretty easily find a job. But I quickly found I was bumping up into things, not intentionally, and thankfully I had some good-natured coworkers and a great boss. But I didn't have these other skills, and I would say the wrong thing, or I wouldn't build relationships effectively. In fact, back in college, I was introduced to Tim Berners-Lee, the man who invented the World Wide Web. My thesis advisor brought me into his office and said, "This is Mark. He just did this really amazing thesis. Here it is. You guys should chat." I chatted to him for 5 minutes, and that was it. I never spoke to him again. But here was the ability to create a connection with an amazing man, and I had no idea how to capitalize on it. I did that many times. Now, I realized early in my career that these skills were important. In fact, I knew I wanted to become a CTO, a Chief Technology Officer. So that's the person in charge of all the engineers. And when I thought about what that meant, I understood it didn't just mean being the best programmer. I knew how to be a programmer. It meant being a leader. It meant building teams and hiring people and negotiating. And no one taught me. So I set out to develop these skills. I had to teach myself and realize these skills aren't just for leaders. They really are for all of us. In fact, any good manager will tell you he or she wants to hire leaders, even for entry-level people. But we don't teach this to our students coming out of college. And now, after putting together a program like this, MIT, it turned out, had gotten feedback from a number of companies when they do their surveys, and the companies said the same thing. They are looking for these skills as well. And I can tell you it's not just MIT. I've seen similar research from a number of universities. Companies want these skills, but they are not finding it. And that's why we put together the program at MIT that I've been teaching at for 20 years. And I subsequently now released the book that covers the same topics.
Wow. Okay. So now we've just covered that, in fact, that the schools are not covering these essential skills. How can a parent introduce some of these skills to their child, and when should they start introducing it?
It will, of course, vary a bit by the nature of your particular child. For many of these skills, you can probably start targeting them around middle school as they become a teenager, maybe preteen. Some things I think you can start to develop even younger. So networking skills, for example, networking is just relationships with other people. And your children, of course, emulate your behavior. If they see how you engage with other people, and are you friendly? Do you reach out? Do you try to help other people? Or you just sit back and maybe if I run into this person, I'll talk to them. Otherwise, I'm not going to make that outreach. I'm not going to engage with them. I'm not going to ask how they're doing and what's going on in their lives when I do see them somewhere outside. The student's going to pick up on this. So that's when you can probably start earlier. But some of these other skills like leadership, you can talk about with your students or with your children as they engage in activities, as you see them, as you see other students and children. And you can ask them, how do you think this went? Did you notice Kyle's behavior? What did you like or not like about Kyle's behavior if Kyle just exemplified some leadership? Is that something you could do? Hey, you just tried this. How did that go? How did that feel? What worked? What didn't work? And so really the way to learn, yes, you could give them books, you could have them listen to podcasts and read, but it's a lot like basketball. You can't just say, here's a book on basketball, great. Now you have to actually be out there doing it. So have your son or daughter do it and then talk to them about how it goes. Ideally, now the way we teach our students at MIT and the way top business schools do this is you create peer learning groups where they talk to each other. And if you could do this with a few different kids, get some other parents, the parents of your son or daughter's friends, and all together work on this and have your kids discuss it with each other, they're going to get a lot out of that peer discussion and that peer learning. And you can help to facilitate and really start them down this journey.
Now, the book, The Career Toolkit, how did it get started and why did you start? Did you publish?
Really, I thought I should write up some notes for our class. The class that I've been teaching for 20 years, it's a very interactive class. We're not simply lecturing at the students. We have them engage in activities and get that learning experience firsthand. I think one of the downsides, they get really engaged and excited, but they're not taking a lot of notes. They do this during the semester. They forget it months later when they go off into an internship. I thought we should just write up some notes for the class. And I really thought I was going to write up about 20 pages of notes. Well, 20 pages became 40, then 80, and pretty soon it became a book. I thought, okay, You know what? I'm going to take all this. We're going to take some other topics that we don't always get to cover in the class, but that we know are desired by companies. And I'm going to turn it into, as you described it, a Swiss Army knife of really the tools we need to be successful.
So now, as a parent, right, what are some surefire action steps I can take when engaging my child in order to get a sample of these skills into them?
One thing to understand about these skills is that they all have an important mindset shift from what we unfortunately stereotype these skills to be. Let me give you two examples. When we think of networking, and we, meaning most adults, we have that vision of the salesperson who walks into some conference happy hour and 30 minutes later comes back with a dozen business cards. Like, oh, okay, that person, master networker, look at all the business cards he got. That's not networking. That's going out, shaking hands, collecting cards. Those aren't relationships. Saying someone whose business card you got is now in your network, it's like saying someone who just swiped right on you on a dating app is now your significant other. That's not a relationship. That's maybe the start. But really what networking is, it is building relationships. That business card might be the first step, but you just have to go and meet and engage with people. And when you get this mindset shift from, I have to collect business cards, I have to add connections on LinkedIn, I have to have a big Rolodex. For those of you parents who might remember Rolodexes, that's not the right way to think about it. But when you think about it as building relationships, which can be done one-on-one, doesn't have to be done in a large room, and just think, how are you? Let me get to know you. What's important to you? You change how you approach networking, and you're no longer worried about how many business cards did I get today. Likewise, when it comes to career, say people think the way to teach our children and our students about careers is just shotgun them with a bunch of careers. This is a fireman. This is a doctor. This is an astronaut. Here's all the jobs. Would you like to be a fireman? And that's it. And the students will look and say, I don't like the uniform, which, let's face it, for a 9-year-old, that's a valid part of the decision-making process. Right. And so they just look for, do I fit, yes or no? But in fact, the way we want to think about our careers and the way we want to teach our children to think about them is what might be of interest. And most parents already know, oh, my child's interested in art or in math. Okay, if they're interested in math, focus them on STEM careers. But we can go even further. Do they tend to like to meet new people? Do they prefer to really be more solitary? Do they like structure, or do they like to set their own process and path? And when you get down to these job components, that's going to help you better understand what job, not just what industry, but what type of job might be right for you. Where you might say, I like this industry, I like this work, but I want to do more field sales because I don't like being tied to an office. I like to meet new people, versus I really like working with numbers and spreadsheets and sitting quietly by myself for hours on end. Okay, maybe accounting might be a better path for you, but we do it based on the components and not, this is an accountant, say yes or no.
Introducing the Dollars and Cents Bundle. This isn't just another boring financial guide. It's your secret weapon for raising financially smart kids. Inside this bundle, you'll get 3 powerful tools to make money lessons a breeze. First up, a kid-friendly budget sheet. It's the perfect way to help your child track their money, build healthy habits, and get hands-on experience managing their earnings. Next, you'll unlock the guide Money Mavericks, bite-sized wisdom for busy parents. Think of it as your quick start playbook, packed with expert-backed tips to help you teach your kids about saving, spending, and everything in between. And finally, there's my favorite part, interactive digital flashcards. These are perfect for teaching core money concepts in a way that's fun, engaging, and memorable for the whole family. Here's the best part. The Dollars and Cents Bundle is completely free. Yep, free. All you have to do is sign up, and the tools are yours, delivered straight to your inbox. You owe it to your kids to give them the skills they need to succeed in life. The Dollars and Cents Bundle makes it simple, fun, and totally doable, no matter how busy you are. So what are you waiting for? Make financial literacy a family adventure. Head over to show notes right now to grab your free Dollars and Cents Bundle link, or go to nurturingfinance.com and subscribe. Don't wait. Start your family's financial journey today. What you just said there brung back some memories, and I feel that basically what you talked about there was the very first chapter in your book, which is a career plan. I feel that should be a definite class, the 11th and 12th grade of high school for a child. And when I was in high school, I didn't receive a class like that. Said, hey, where you think you're going? What career do you think you like? Let's explore that. And I think the last 2 years of high school, there should be a definite class like that. And maybe 2 classes like that. But I never got into one.
Yeah, we definitely need to expose them to how to think about careers instead of just here's a set. And here's a problem that we see with a lot of college students. A lot of college juniors and seniors are very focused on their first job out of school. I've been through a couple recessions now. We've had the dot-com crash, we've had the Great Recession, and now, of course, the COVID recession.
Yes, sir.
And what happens every time is students at the time of that recession, they say, oh, the jobs in this industry suddenly have dried up. Therefore, I'm going to pick a different industry. We saw, for example, the number of people going into finance took a massive dip around 2008, 9, 10. And so what it means is that the student choices, it's being impacted by these external events. We know that there wasn't suddenly something in the water for that certain year when they were born that changed their preferences. They were responding to externality. And granted, for some folks, especially if you've been taking out a lot of college debt, if you have family obligations, you might say, I really need this job that pays me today and I can't wait around. But what happens when students make decisions about who's just going to hire me right out of school, they tend to put themselves on a path that's going to last them for decades. And in chapter 1, I talk about how you think about your career plan down the road and how choices you make today can impact, can open up or remove options later. And unfortunately, our students never think that way. They're thinking really in the next 1, 2, 3 years and making choices that will have a longer term impact, but being totally unaware.
So now, my favorite skill out of this book was basically negotiations. And I guess career plan would be right behind that. But it was negotiation. Mark, if you had a child and you had to pick one skill, which one would you look to implement onto your child?
It's hard to pick just one, but I would probably go with communication. Communication really underpins a lot of these other skills.
Okay.
And now communication is a broad topic. You could read 20 books on communication and they all cover something different. I focused on really the fundamentals of communication. So let me describe what that means. Think about a basic model, left brain, right brain people. Imagine someone who is extremely left brain, almost stereotypically, comically left brain. If you needed to communicate an idea to this person, might be your boss, your friend, your son or daughter, if you needed to communicate that idea, how would you do it? You'd probably do so in a very rigorous, formal, structured process. Now think about that same person, but being very extreme. They're not going to want to sit through a 17-point logical argument. That person wants to be emotionally inspired. You want to use storytelling. You want to use imagery. You would take a very different approach in how you engage that person and how you might communicate to that person. In the chapter, what I do is break down those concepts, and I create a couple larger models than just this 2-step model I described.
Right.
And really give you the framework that you can create arbitrary models, but recognizing that we all have different communication styles and learning how to communicate with people who have these different styles really can make you significantly more effective in your personal and professional.
Yeah, communication. Yeah, that is definitely a foundation out of all these skills that I read in the book. The Career Toolkit, once it was published, how did you feel?
I was pretty excited to get out there. I've gotten wonderful feedback from readers, from people who have come to my talks. And by the way, if you ever read a book, authors really appreciate that. When I teach in a classroom, I engage with the students. I see how they're feeling about it. I can judge, are they responding? Is it sinking in? As an author, of course, we're blind to all of this. And so it's always so wonderful to hear how something is doing, if it worked. If it didn't, that's helpful. So we can, of course, revise it when we put out another edition of the book. But it's really been great to see how this has been doing and how it's been able to really help people lead more successful, happier careers and lives.
Yes, this is definitely a book that you put bookmarks in, your indent pages, you highlight certain lines to come back to, because once again, these skills is forgotten now these days and is overlooked, especially the negotiations for me.
I've actually helped to do some of that work for you. You can, of course, take that highlighter, bookmark the page. I encourage you to do. But if you don't want to do that work, you can also download the free companion app, the Career Toolkit app. It's available in both the Android and iPhone stores. This has the key tips, the key quotes, the salient points of the book. And when you download it onto your phone, it's completely free, doesn't record any information. It just sits on your phone, and each day it's going to pop up a reminder. It's almost like a daily affirmation, but with these tips. Because we know that when you read a book like this, you forget it 3 weeks later. You forget most of it. Certainly our students do, because they're focused on so many other things. So by having it as the app, it just pops up each day. This is a technique known as spaced repetition, which has been proven to help increase retention. And so just each day you set whatever time you want it to come up, you get that reminder about networking or negotiating or whatever tip you want, and then you swipe it away and it's reinforced it. Or if, for example, your child is about to go into a, say, college interview, you can go to the interview tips, open up the chapter, and just flip through those tips and quickly get that refresher. So you can use this in different ways to supplement what you're learning in the book and really create that retention, because I'm not in the business of just selling books. I'm in the business of trying to help you be more effective. I think the app is a useful companion to the book to help you do that.
Thank you for that piece of information, because I did not know about the app. I didn't even know. Wow. Okay. So now, in the theme of health, wealth, and family, what is the best piece of advice you could give the parents out there?
When you are meeting someone else and you're thinking, okay, here's someone, I know nothing about this person. I don't know how to engage, how to connect, how to try and create a relationship between the two of us. These are three things. They were inspired by Keith Ferrazzi. He uses health, wealth, and children. I do it as health, wealth, and family as a larger set, because these are the three things that are universal. Health, how are you doing? That's how we start conversations, especially these days with COVID. How are you feeling? Is your family healthy? Are you doing okay? Wealth really comes down to our jobs, our career. And wealth we can take broadly. It's not just financially. It's, are you happy and successful, whatever that means to you? Because that's something we all care about, success, however we define it. And then family, of course, our children, our parents, our spouse, our extended families, even our close friends are meaningful to us. And so showing concern and interest in them helps foster that relationship. So when you meet someone new and you say, I know nothing about this person, you can always start asking about health, wealth, and family, and that will help you create that connection.
Yeah, that sounds good. That definitely sounds good. When I read that in a book, I was like, yeah, definitely. It makes sense. It definitely makes sense. Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing with us about your book, The Career Toolkit. Let us know what other projects you may have coming out and how we could get in contact with you in order to continue this conversation.
This fall, I'm beginning to do some work on additional books. And for that, I would just love feedback on this one to know, are there things I missed? Are there other topics that weren't covered as I think about where to go with additional books? You can find me on my website at thecareertoolkitbook.com. You can certainly get in touch with me or follow me on social media, learn more about the book, including where to buy it, Amazon, of course, as well as your local bookstores. or libraries. We're now getting picked up by a number of libraries. And then you can also go to the app page. That's going to take you to the Android or iPhone store where you can download the free app, or you can go to the resources page where I list a number of other books as well as free online resources and some free downloads to really help you with your own career or that of your child to really develop these skills and be successful. All of this at the website, thecareertoolkitbook.com.
Mark, once again, thank you for coming on the show. And we'll definitely look out for anything you have going in the future.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Just talking to Mark, you can see there are other skills that work hand in hand with money. Negotiations alone is just telling me, man, I got more to teach her other than what I'm doing right now. Negotiation is big for me. If I knew that, man, I would have been negotiating all my jobs. But once again, I didn't know anything about negotiation and I was never taught about it. But that is going to change when it comes to my daughter. And as you see, as a parent, teaching them about money just doesn't have to stop right there. Keep it going. Add on. Build. What do you have to lose? As always, I would like you to share, tell other parents about the show, email, text, share on your social. This will definitely help the show in spreading the word. As always, stay safe.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Raising Financial Freedom, the podcast. Stay connected with us directly through raisingfinancialfreedom.com. You can also join the discussion on social media, which you can also find links on our website. If you would like to speak with us, please send us an email through info@raisingfinancialfreedom.com. And as always, thank you for pushing your mindset towards a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking portion of your day. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and each other.
Before you go, I wanted to tell you about a new option called Fan Mail, which uses text messaging to give our listeners the ability to text our show directly. There is a link in every episode at the top that will say, send us a text. You can use that link to text the show. When a listener clicks the link in our episode description, a new text message will open on your device directly to the show. It's that easy. So tell me what you think, what else you want to hear out of the show, or simply your thoughts on that episode you just heard.